For the final part of this lesson, we're going to talk about emotion coaching and why that's so important in regards to parenting your child. I want us to think about this statement for a second. As human beings, we feel closer to those who listen to, understand, and accept what we are feeling. The ability to do this is called having empathy for someone. We tend to feel closer emotionally to those people who display empathy for us. We've talked a lot about empathy in previous lessons, but it's going to come up again a lot in this lesson. So I want us just to take a second and think about people who have been empathetic to us in the past and what that's meant to us. Some takeaway messages for this lesson include: when parents improve their own emotional awareness, they are better able to be good emotion coaches for their children. Increasing emotional awareness takes practice. And attending to your child's emotions is also an opportunity for the two of you to grow closer and deepen feelings of love and trust for each other. We're now going to create a learning goal based on these takeaway messages. Some samples include: I would like to use my child's emotional displays as an opportunity to connect better with him. Or I would like to be able to help my child navigate her emotions and provide support and guidance to help her problem solve. If you would like to, you can take a second and write a learning goal in regards to emotion coaching. After you're done with that, we'll go ahead and move on. We're also going to think about this statement. When our children have upset emotions, it's a good time for us to bond with them. Just like we talked about how play and reading can be an excellent time for bonding for us with our children, so can emotions. Oftentimes we want to kind of run away or hide or stuff down emotions, but as we've mentioned before, it can be a great time to bond and connect with your child. This is a question I'd like you to think about for yourself. How do you feel when you have a strong emotion and another person listens, validates how you're feeling, and is there for you? Take a second and write down your response to this. I know for me, if someone listens and validates how I'm feeling, I feel valued. I feel heard. I usually feel a lot calmer. My emotions have kind of settled a little bit, and I'm in a place where I can think a lot more clearly. The same can be true for our children. The next thing I'd like you to look at is in your yellow book on worksheet 3.2.2. The title of this is The 4 Styles of Parenting. We're going to read through each of them very quickly and identify between these 4 different styles what characteristics might we have presented in our own parenting and which ones are we unfamiliar with. And then we're going to talk about, out of all of these, which one has maybe proven to be the most effective when it comes to helping our kids handle their emotions. We'll start with the dismissive parent. Some qualities of a dismissive parent include: feels anger or other strong emotions are bad, feels threatened by child's emotions, feels child's strong emotions make the parent look bad, and discounts the child's emotions because he or she is just a child. Those are qualities that we might see in a dismissive parent. Beneath that is the disapproving parent. This includes qualities like criticizes the child's expression of emotions, just wants the child to behave and obey, thinks anger or other strong emotions are a sign that there is something wrong with the child's moral character, doesn't help the child express emotions, puts no limits on child's behavior, fixes problems for child instead of helping child problem solve. Those are characteristics of the disapproving parent. Next, we have the indulgent parent. This includes allowing children to express emotions even in ways that are harmful, doesn't help child deal with emotions or solve problems causing the strong emotions, and does not help child manage their out-of-control behavior. These are qualities of an indulgent parent. Lastly, we have the emotion coach. Tunes into their child's emotions, helps child name emotions, lets child know that all emotions are normal and okay, encourages appropriate expression of emotions while putting limits on behavior, is comfortable with child's fear, anger, or sadness, doesn't rush in to fix problems, but instead helps the child problem solve. I'd like you to take a second and think about the 4 questions on the bottom of the screen. How easy or hard is it for you to accept your children's emotions? Which situations are easier or harder for you when dealing with your children's emotions? Are you different with different children in your family? What would help you move towards being more accepting of your children's emotions? As you're reflecting on these questions, you can look back up at the worksheet and highlight specific qualities that maybe you've presented in the past. You might not display all qualities of one of these, but maybe you may have 1 quality of an indulgent parent and 3 qualities of an emotion coach. Oftentimes people are not categorized solely into one group, but present qualities from different groups. So take a second, highlight on this page things that you've experienced before, and reflect on your own childhood and how your parents parented you. As we look through all of these parenting styles, we can see that the emotion coach is the most in tune with their child's emotions and how they're responding to them. The other 3 styles either dismiss, disapprove, or just allow their kids' emotions to become out of control. Ideally, we'd like to be the most in tune with our kids' emotions as possible, helping them to identify and name their emotions and helping them to problem solve in the process. Now that you just had the opportunity to think about your parenting style as it relates to your response to your child's emotions, I'm curious did you tend to respond consistently with one of the styles, or did you notice that your style changes as the situation changes? I know that it's very common for parents to respond one way with one child and very differently to another child. This could have been the same for you when you were growing up. Maybe your parents treated you one way and your brother or sister a different way. This could be a great time to just reflect on that. Not be angry at yourself, not feel angry necessarily at your parents. You could, or you might, but it might just be a time just to acknowledge it and say, yeah, I see that I act differently in those situations. In what ways is your style consistent or inconsistent with your values and your vision of destination adulthood? Thinking back to the types of qualities we want our kids to have when they're older, how is our response to their emotions right now? Setting them up for success in destination adulthood. Are we encouraging them, or are we kind of doing things that are not allowing them to develop appropriately in regards to their emotions? And lastly, is there anything else that you learned about yourself doing this exercise? I know for me, whenever I go over this, I always learn something new, and I think about, yeah, I tend to respond really differently with certain people, or certain qualities tend to come out when I'm in certain situations. I think that's really common for all of us. Ideally, we could all have all the qualities of an emotion coach, but that takes practice. It's something that we can really work intentionally at implementing into our routines with our children. We're going to watch a quick video of a sample role play between 2 men who are practicing some emotion coaching. As you're watching, take notes of things that they did well or didn't do well.
What's up, so how you doing?
All right.
What's wrong?
Nothing.
Why you acting like that then?
Like what?
The way you acting.
I'm not acting like nothing.
You acting like a little girl right now.
I'm not a girl, you a girl.
So, are you gonna tell me what's wrong and we can talk?
No.
So why did you come?
I didn't want to come. Grandma made me come.
Well, you just sit right there and I'm gonna talk to your grandmother then.
I don't care. Hi Rodney, how you doing?
I'm alright.
What's wrong? I feel like I sense something is bothering you.
No, it's nothing.
You know, I know that I'm not always able to be there for you, but we're family and I want to be there for you. I want you to be able to talk to me.
Yeah, well, it's really nothing.
You sure?
Well, you know, we have a basketball trial tomorrow and I was thinking about trying out with a couple of my friends.
That sounds good. Well, what's wrong?
Well, I was kind of nervous because I didn't know if I was going to make the team or not.
That's normal. It's normal. I mean, I think everyone gets nervous when they're trying something new.
You get nervous also?
I do. So if you decide to try out, maybe we can schedule something. I'll call you in a couple of days. What do you think?
That sounds good, Dad. Thank you.
All right.
In that first video, we could see that the dad was very dismissive of his son's emotions. He didn't acknowledge or seem to care about how his son was feeling at all, even though it was very clear that he was feeling upset. In the second video, we saw that the father was sensing that something was bothering his son. He then proceeded to ask him about it. He did it in a kind and soft way, and he related to him, validating his emotions and even connecting him and sharing stuff about his own experiences. Being able to relate to your children in a way that you can connect with them on this level is an excellent platform to bond with them. If they see and hear that you are responding to them in a kind way when they're experiencing strong emotions, they'll feel more comfortable to start naming those emotions in front of you. And hopefully, as they get older, they'll be able to use their words instead of their actions, such as throwing tantrums or yelling and screaming, to be able to express their emotions. This is a great thing to practice with your kids at a very young age and model it for them in your own relationships. Next, we're going to look at worksheet 3.2.3, which is in your yellow workbook. The top of it will say, the 5 steps of emotion coaching. Emotion coaching builds feelings of closeness and love as the child feels understood by the parent. It also helps develop problem-solving and emotion regulation skills. We're now going to go through the 5 steps of emotion coaching. Number 1, tune into your child's emotions. Watch for their body language, their facial expressions, see if they've had any bad dreams or moodiness. Try to see the world from their perspective. 2, recognize your child's emotions as an opportunity to bond with them. Take advantage of this time and really see it as a place for growth for the two of you. Use this opportunity to draw closer to your child emotionally and to teach some skills for managing emotions. Show empathy by acknowledging feelings. You can say things like, it's sad to be left out of a game at school, or it is scary to get separated from your family in the grocery store. Number 4, help the child verbally name the emotions. You can refer back to our emotion worksheet that we mentioned in the first video, show them some pictures and help them put names to those feelings, using words such as nervous, disappointed, frightened, or worried. Number 5, set limits on behavior while helping the child to problem solve. You can say things like, it's okay to be angry, but not to hit. And it's okay to be frustrated with your project, but not okay to throw it across the room. It's okay to be upset with your brother because he messed up your blocks, but it's not okay to push him down. Validate the emotion, but not always the action that comes along with the emotion. On the next page over, we're going to talk about problem solving with children. There's a couple steps here that can help you navigate how to teach your children to be problem solvers, especially when they're in the middle of feeling a really strong emotion. First, you can help them make a goal statement. Ask them what he'd like to accomplish. Is there a problem? Is there something that needs to be resolved at school or at home? Number 2, brainstorm a list of possible solutions. As a reminder, there's no wrong answers when brainstorming. It's everyone's ideas out there, and it can help you narrow down which ones can be positive solutions or maybe ones that aren't as good of options. Number 3, consider pros and cons of possible solutions. Make a pro-con list. Everyone's ideas are valid. Take time to think, what might be a good option? What might not be as good of an option? Next, help your child choose a solution. Let them be a part of the process. When children are involved in choosing a solution, they'll be more likely to comply with it. Allow them to try solutions even if you think they won't work, as long as they're safe choices. Failure is an opportunity to help your child accept his mistakes and try again. I'd encourage you to use this problem-solving plan with your children. Just like we've used problem-solving plans for ourselves as adults, this is a great time to model it for your kids. On the next page, on worksheet 3.2.4, there are some role-playing scenarios. This could be a great thing to look through to help you kind of think through some scenarios that maybe have come up in your family, maybe could come up in your family in the future, and kind of wrap your brain around what might I do to help my child problem solve if they were in that scenario. If you have someone at home with you, you can practice role-playing with them, or you could write out a conversation plan just with yourself and brainstorm some ideas of how you could help problem solve. The last thing that we're going to do is wrap up our learning goal for the day. So if my learning goal for today was, I would like to use my child's emotional displays as an opportunity to better connect with him, I might answer the next question by saying, as I saw in the video, the father acknowledged the son's feelings and let him know that he has felt a similar emotion. This was a good example of showing empathy and helping the son feel understood. For the last question, you might say something like, the next time I see my son, I'm going to focus on really listening to how he is feeling and being more in tune to his nonverbal cues. I will practice showing empathy rather than discounting his emotions. There's no wrong answers when it comes to learning goals. You can tailor it to fit exactly what your specific family dynamic is right now or what's going on in your life. Ideally, for the second question, take something that you learned from the lesson and talk about how you can apply it. And in the third question, take that question and figure out, when am I actually going to do this in my life? When's a time that I could actually play this out and put this into practice? That's all we have for week 3. We look forward to seeing everybody next week.